Shut up, Evan.
Shut up, Evan.
Shut the up, Evan.
Shut up, Evan.
Or shut up, Evan.
Yeah, shut up, Evan.
We love you, Evan.
We love you, Evan, though, actually.
We haven't seen each other in quite some time, but we used to communicate, this one and I,
Yeah.
over voice memo.
How did you first meet?
Internet.
Yeah, on the internet. Yeah.
Did you slip into each other's DMs?
Yeah.
Well, we met via an interview.
No one's ever slipped into my DMs, but I don't have it.
That's a sort of a roadblock.
I want to be slipped into.
Okay, and we're on.
And we're beginning.
Slipped into.
I love the phrase, but it's so naughty.
You know, we used to share opinions back and forth about things, and then you disappeared. And so I'm glad that this is a thing bringing us back together.
I deleted social media.
Oh, you did. Oh, yeah.
But you know, I did have a thought when it first happened, because it wasn't like an announcement of any kind. And I was like, I think Paul blocked me.
I'm a phone caller. Yeah.
But you're a fantastic phone caller.
But I'm a terrible texter.
But I love that
Yeah,
you use the call. It's
Yeah, I
like
do.
old school.
Yes. You can convey emotion and deeper thoughts and just a cadence in a phone call or a voice memo that I think allows for deeper conversations than a text. And it's like, you just said okay, and is it an affirmative okay? Or it gets confusing. Anyway, very excited to be here with you both. I want to congratulate you on the film. My metric used to be, did I like it, did I not like it? And then I kind of moved away from that, and my metric became, does the film stay with me? Is it something that I want to think about? Is it a world I want to live in? Is it something that I want to go on the internet and consume everything that's been said about it? And this is one of those films, which to me is like the true marker of success today. So amazing for both of you. Paul, you did a recent interview where you were asked if you were a Glinda or an Elphaba. You responded by saying that you were a Glinda, and the reason I wanted to open with this is I just have strong feelings you are not.
Yeah. I saw that and I was like, I think I made an error. I don't know why I said that.
Why did you say that?
Because I feel uncomfortable saying that I'm an Elphaba.
Why?
I don't know why. I just don't feel like I'm an Elphaba.
Okay, I think you need to embrace the wickedness.
Yeah, I am. I'm embracing it. I don't know.
Maybe you're both. You've got a bit of fluff in your face. Love. Thank you.
And Jessie, let me put it to you. Are you a Glinda or an Elphaba?
I'm obviously Alpha.
Yeah, you are obviously Elphaba.
Okay, I'm sitting before two powerhouse Elphabas.
Yeah. I loved that film.
Yeah.
When I saw the first one, I haven't seen the second one yet, but when the first one I watched, I was like 7 months pregnant, and I went to my local cinema, and when she did the dance in the ballroom, I ugly sobbed.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing. I was trying not to cry, and the more I tried not to cry, the louder the sobbing came. And there was all these like women going, "You're a grown woman, like pull yourself together." And then my husband started crying because he knew why I was crying, because I was pregnant. Anyway, I love that film so much.
Now, you talk about crying at Wicked, and this Hamnet is a film that has people crying as well. And I was thinking about, in the post-COVID world, there was all these arguments about like, how do we get people back to the cinema? I think one of the great arguments to be made in favor of going to see movies is the communal experience, whether it be laughter, crying, screaming out at weapons, what have you. What do you think it is about cinema and the power of being all together and crying that is something that we need?
I just think it's like, it's one of the great privileges of like being out in front of this film, and like the screening at Telluride is kind of seared into my memory of one that felt like the act of being in a room together actually superseded the film to me. It was like this kind of communal experience, which is like, it's essentially what the end of the film is mirroring in terms of what it must have been like for those early performances of Hamlet at the Globe, where Shakespeare's communicating something bigger than the play here, and it's landing with an audience. And I felt like that was mirrored for us, and also it was a very loaded moment for us. I remember that day we were like holding on to each other for dear life, hoping people would like respond to it.
And I'm wondering what that feeling is like as actors all of these months later, to know that the message that you were trying to translate was not lost in translation.
I think firstly, you never ever can expect that that's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
So when it does, it's like, oh my God, you know.
Thank God.
And also you don't really know, because when you're making it, you're just in the experience. So actually, it's in hindsight, like when you become a part of an audience in some way. And in hindsight, you recognize like the things that were transmuted and transcended in making of the film. But it is a relief to feel like on the most basic level that it's affected something in people. You know, that's always what you want to do. You know, and there's different ways of doing that in cinema. There's like escapism and comedy and, you know, all of it. It's all good. But I think to feel things that maybe we don't really allow to be held very often in cinema, like the epicness of love and grief in the same kind of place is, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
The film was shot chronologically, from my understanding. And so I want to focus in on that first, maybe third of the film, the development of the love story. There's so much subtext. There's very little dialogue. And yet, you know, thinking about that opening scene, for instance, you two are drawn to one another in such a way. And so I wanted to know specifically what it was like shooting that first third of the film. I think it's very easy to look at this film and sort of focus on where everything lands. I've heard in a lot of interviews, people talking about, you're gonna cry at this movie and all of those aspects of the film. And certainly, but I really marvel at that first third and kind of what we need to do to get to that final act.
I love that question.
Yeah, I love that question. Because I do think we in the age of the internet, we like to compartmentalize and say, oh, this is a film this is the tearjerker of the year. And actually, that's not what we made. We didn't make something with the intention of like making people cry. Actually, it was like...
It was born out of love.
Love,
and actually, the risk to love anything at all is that you might lose it. We were trying to create something deeply human, and to love a man who has created such huge, you know, humanity in his plays, and to feel like, whoa, these people have epic capacity to love each other and what's inside that, and to try and make that crackle.
Because that was invested in so fully by us and by Chloe, that is ultimately why I think that the ending has such a big effect, because you see a full life lived between, ultimately the center of the film is Anya's and Will being in this relationship, and the family and the love that is essentially a product of that love, and losing a central part of that in Hamnet is the reason that the film is so upsetting. But if we'd begun the film with the death of Hamnet, there's no context, there's no sense of something being lost. Whereas you see, when Hamnet passes, you see this connection kind of fractured between them, but you've also seen what that is like when it's working. So there's a real sense of,
I think that's the hardest part in their love is, you know, they can contain so much for each other and let each other go, and like have the strength and foresight to go, you know, he needs more than me, he needs more than this town, he needs to go to London and exercise his imagination because it's going to kill him here, and to have the kind of strength and conviction as a couple to see each other and also let each other go. But in that moment post Hamnet, when after you've seen all this life and strength between them, and then you just see them be calloused through their grief beside each other and not be able to access and touch each other the way they were born with each other, that always got me. I mean, even doing those scenes, I was like, this is
I felt like
so
we weren't
horrendous.
Talking to each other.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Because we got incredibly close on it, and it was like going from those scenes, and the ones that were like just incredibly tactile and full of like joy, and then there was like days towards the end of the shoot where we'd be like just wanting to look after each other, but knowing that wasn't going to serve anything. So there was a real kind of coldness in moments that was just
horrible,
fucking awful.
He's my husband. Like, he's my film husband.
Yeah. My film wife.
So off of that, it's clear you two really like each other, and I'm very fascinated by the press tour as just a mechanism that exists today, and sort of how you have to vacillate between recess therapy or royal court or hot ones, but then also do CBS Sunday Morning and Los Angeles Times, and be able to sort of do both and talk about this work with both of those audiences. I think it's one of my deepest fascinations around the work of an actor. How does it change this process when you have a co-star that you have such a rich connection with? And I think about Olivia Colman for you, or Andrew Scott for you. This is something that I think you two have, from my perspective, been afforded in the past and that you have again now here.
I mean, being completely honest, it's quite hard jumping, you know, into different, they're quite heightened spaces. And you're trying to
Genres, yes.
It's kind of tripped me out on this more than anything, because you're dealing with something like a family drama, and then you're going to Central Park and there's squirrels and kids, and then you go to it is intense, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know where I am right now. But I think I hate doing these. The idea of doing this on my own would be, I think I'd have a breakdown.
Yeah.
But the fact that we can be here and in conversation and candid with each other and be absolutely honest about things that were, beautiful but also hard, and where, I don't know, it's been so nice to.
It's that feeling of like using the opportunity of a press tour to actually hang out with your friend as well is a really, it's one of the great parts about this job. But I do agree with Jessie that sometimes you feel like the mistake would be to assume that you're going to get everything right on a press tour. But actually, if you boil it down, you're hoping that you can communicate with an audience what the film is about. And if you can do that, that's like 50% of the job. And the other bit, you're just trying to like let an audience in on what the sense of making it was. But you also want to retain a degree of mystery about the
and
process
actually that's
yourself.
like I think because there's so much like press now, sometimes I worry that I want to know, especially with a film like this, it's so personal. Like people have very personal memories from this film, and I want to protect that for them. And like, when people come out of the cinema, and I want to be able to contain whatever feelings they're feeling and not like impose anything that we did when we were doing it. But inevitably, by talking so much about it, I'm trying to have a light touch with it, but also be honest about it in a way.
But it is an interesting junction, I think, the industry is in. We've spoken about this, that it's like, what does it look like to promote a film anymore? Because it's now this like machine, and it's like, you absolutely want to serve the film, and you want to serve Chloe, and you want to serve the studio, but you also have to protect yourself in it, because it's like, I always find when you finish a press tour, you're like, Jesus, I hope I'm good in the next thing, because I've spoken so much at length about like the process, and then you can kind of just get lost.
Do you have a preference when it comes to questions that are asking you to dig into the process of making the film, questions about acting and the work of acting? Or, I opened this interview by asking you, are you a Glinda or an Alphaba? Which is, in theory, a softball, but it could aggravate you in thinking like, do we have to have such frivolity in the interview process? So I sort of wonder if there's a preference that you have, or if it's something that you even think about.
I think you're brilliant at your job, so I think it helps with, I think you meet the person that comes into the room, and sometimes you meet someone and you're like, they're not prepared, they are interested in maybe just getting an internet clickbaity thing. That's not fun.
No.
But actually somebody who is like buoyant and charismatic, like you come in and you're like, this is, there is the interviewer has spent time thinking about what they want to talk about. I think if that happens, it makes the interview a hell of a lot easier.
You make this film, I believe you wrapped production 2024. Then you both go off and make other projects. Your world kind of gets redirected for some time. And now you come back together, and the film sort of has like this second life for you. And so I'm wondering what that's like, sort of putting the process of making the film to bed, saying goodbye for a period, and then coming back to it.
Well, I had a baby in between this, so
that's the big story, to be honest.
Which is also kind of a wild relationship to after making this.
I can imagine.
I find it too close right now, to be completely honest. What about you?
I think it just helps when it's a film that you're very proud of. Like, the big fear in that kind of gap is like, do you ever get this sense of like impending embarrassment when you're between finishing a film and hoping that, like, because we had such a profound experience making it, I was like, Jesus, I hope that we didn't just lose our minds and we thought we were making something brilliant. And
I've been in that
feeling, like you're waiting. And you're
which is always possible.
It's always possible.
I've definitely been in those situations where I'm like, whoa, this is like such. And also because films go through so many other hands. It's never just you. Like, you have there's like a world before you even start filming. then there's the filming, and then there's a whole other world which
It's
is
out of
like
your hands.
totally out of your hands.
Yeah.
And you also don't know how a film's going to meet the culture at that moment as well. So then
Totally.
it's like a whole other kind of thing. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm envious of musicians in that regard, or people who like
it's immediacy.
it's immediacy. They are in control of, depending on the kind of musician you are, but you're in control of how you want, what words you want to say, how you want it to sound, how you want it to be produced. So if it is successful or if it fails, it belongs to you still. Whereas I feel like,
but I do also like the kind of, I like that it's bigger.
I do too, but I feel like
I
I've
like
missed
the kind of trickle of it.
Yeah, you spoke in, I think it was the CBS Sunday Morning interview, about how much you like the community of making art in community with others and sort of being a part of a bigger process.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much working on something like this, where there's the combination of you're working with artists that I imagine that you really are in connection with, and feeling like the ability to submit yourself a bit more, knowing that there's a trust level.
I think the only way something new comes through is through the collision with somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think we've kind of got a bit like individualized in our minds, and the idea of our success is totally driven by our own brand or idea, or, you know, and that's just never been it's never filled me up. It's never been the experience which has woken me up in my life. The things that have woken me up in my life is like the crack between two people where something new is discovered with each other. And I feel like I'm hungry for that community. You know, I want more of it. I want to keep finding places where the experiment can exist within the community and not just on your own, because it can be lonely to imagine on your own.
Yeah.
I just find it, for me anyway, much more exciting and fruitful to be in relation to people.
You know, you talk about these cracks, and do you feel like over time your perceptibility around like seeking out those cracks has grown? Because it's like, if you're so invigorated by that, I imagine it's like you kind of have to go out and seek out those cracks.
To give an example of what a crack is in a scene, is sometimes you can get into the scene and you start it, and I always find like your first kind of drink of water of a scene is so alive, because there's no preconception of where this is going to go. And then sometimes that's enough. Like Chloe had the confidence sometimes to go, okay, one shot, one take, one setup, that's it. And the potency of that act is so intense. Like, you know, you only have one kind of journey that you've got to go on, and it better be cooked like really well. But I think the crack is like, when you, after that first drink of water in a scene, then you start like distilling down into something unusual and uncomfortable, because it's like, I don't know, it's like it's going down into the deeper layers of your skin, and you have to sit into the uncomfortable bit. And that's quite like a liminal space of being in an unknown, to go deeper, to go down somewhere that's going to rupture beneath you, and like a volcano create like a new landscape. And I think that's the most exciting. It's really uncomfortable, but it's so exciting. And I always find like the things that are hardest to access means that they're actually bigger. That this is the new thought, and you really have to sit in it to allow it to come through.
That's why you are the genius that you are. But it's true. Like, I saw this happen too, and I actually can't take credit for that, because I worked differently before I worked with Jessie. I think that this is like a collaboration that's incredibly important to me, not just like as an actor, but as like a person, where I was like, this is really inspiring to me. And I think it just made you make everyone you work with better. But I feel like that was very true of this experience for me. Like, I could see not necessarily Jessie's curiosity with the end product at all. I could see her curiosity with the process. And I just loved, like, and sometimes you fail in that. You fail. No, you know, but you go, but it's not about, it's a mistake to even call it a failure, because you're not going into it, which I've learned from you and that I'm carrying forward now. It's like, you're never going to achieve every scene, because you can't achieve a scene. You're just going to go into it with the curiosity of like, what if I scratch away another layer? maybe the one before is better or worse or whatever, but it's this kind of curiosity of like, then when you manage to land on that together, and I think there's maybe 3 or 4 scenes in the film where we like landed on that together. And it's not that it's the better or worse scene, but just this feeling of anything can happen.
Yeah.
You can punch me in the face, you can miss me, you can like, I'm excited now, but that scene when I go for the second time, I think there was about 4 takes through the window. I just remember us like boxers that morning. We were like not talking, and it was like Max Richter's playing, we were just circling each other like, and there's 4 takes, and one of them ends up with us kind of like on top of it, really sexually charged on the table. One of us, like, all of those takes are an example of that thing that you're describing, of like looking for a crack. But I feel like both of us at that moment were just kind of, it felt like we were surfing.
Yeah, yeah.
And it didn't feel the scene is obviously very painful to watch, but it felt so exhilarating.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like, oh.
Well, this has me thinking, because I think audiences are going to be eager to see you two both do something again together. You mentioned in a recent interview that you'd be interested in doing a movie musical. You are currently filming a movie musical. So I was thinking, you know, what would be great roles for you both ahead of this interview? And where I landed was Sunday in the Park with George.
Oh, come on.
If you two had to cast yourselves in a musical together, maybe movie, maybe stage production, does anything come to mind?
I think we could do a good Sweeney Todd and Mrs. Lovett.
Wow.
Because I feel like George is a bit high for me vocally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to do a new one.
Yeah,
A new musical.
Something that's like from the root up,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a new
Build it.
story, a new like I don't know. In my head, I'm like, what does like the sound of London? What is the sound of London right now? You know, is it Radiohead? I don't know, just something that's like new, a new language.
I would also just do anything with Jessie. It doesn't have to be musical.
I'd do anything.
Anything.
No, I think I've met like a journeyman, you know.
Yeah.
What is that the right word? In my head, it's like the one you're like.
Oh, we're just going to go on a journey together.
Yeah.
How does that get done? How do you say, I want to work with this person and I don't necessarily have the project, but I know that this person and I can do something together, and maybe we bring in this person and this person.
And actually, I think lots of people are open to that. Like at the moment, I'm kind of stirring that pot with creating like a Worcester group back in the UK, a kind of version of that. And even for me, it's about taking responsibility as artists.
Yeah.
And it's so rare you get scripts that are really good.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there's so much stories to be told. And I think in the environment at the moment in cinema, there's a fear and there's like risklessness, and like everything, we're looking for a prototype of what's been deemed successful before to recreate it. But I just think that's a complete lie. It doesn't work. I think audiences are smart. Yeah. I think they have we all have so much capacity to be woken up. And I feel a huge responsibility as an artist to find a new process and a language, and to experiment and crack the ceiling of an established idea of risklessness. And actually, I want like, what's the Beckett of our time? You know, Worcester Group was so significant. You look at the people that came out of that community, like Fran McDormand, Willem Dafoe, John C. who like are cultural shapeshifters. And it maybe wasn't like the Worcester Group that was the absolute language, but what those people came out with has changed how we see ourselves and what is reflected in ourselves. So I really genuinely feel like absolute responsibility to charge that conversation and find
100%.
our troops.
Yeah.
Because
you just have to go out and do it.
You have to do it, and people are open to it. And like, I know there's an underground people who are starving and trying to find a way to break through, but I'm going to do it.
It's like you look at the education of like rep theatre, like you look at people like Emily, who's in this film, like that like being in a company of actors for 2 years.
But Lars from Trier and, Thomas Vinterberg, that's what they had, a manifesto that was absolutely their own and has become their singular language. And I know they are also still seeking a way to
deep collaboration with people over like it just makes me so excited. Like when people ask me what actors do I want to work with, I've like such a dream list of people, but actually the people that I'm most looking forward to working with are people that I've worked with before.
To try something new.
If we were able to get to this kind of level of, I think, truth on our first attempt, can you imagine what it's going to be like a fifth or sixth? And it's not about end product of something being a better or worse film. I'm just like, Jesus Christ, it's a scary concept.
It is kind of
it
scary.
is scary.
I'm scared, but I'm excited.
Neither of you have social media. And I bring this up because I think that it's perceived by so many people that in order to be successful today as a young actor, you have to have social media. I mean, we've heard from certain actors who have mentioned publicly that they've been in castings where they were told you need to have X amount of followers to even get in the room. We understand the sort of potential setbacks, right, in terms of promotion, but I think there's a great power that you two both possess in not giving people such access to you and your thoughts. And I'm wondering if you see it that way as well.
You know, our work cannot be quantified by how many followers you have. Like, our work is expression and creation, not, you know, being liked.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what to do. I think I consciously chose not to put myself there because I don't want that to be the thing that defines what I do in my work. It's just it's not our job.
No, I agree. Like, but it is also, it's something that I'm aware of, having been on it and coming off it, where I was like, oh, now is the time to get off this train, because if I don't get off it, your whole, the world is just is moving so aggressively towards that being a necessity. Yeah. And it makes me uncomfortable, because then it just fundamentally, when you ask for privacy in the world, and you're practicing something that is in complete conflict with that, it doesn't add up. Like, if I'm going in an interview, it's like, actually my private life is my private life, but I'm up there posting photos being like, here's what I'm having for breakfast. It doesn't, those two things are in conflict, and I agree with it. I also think it's maybe like a subtle, not even subtle, it's an important stance to take against the industry, that like, you don't want actors to have to like cultivate this online presence to be deemed as good enough. Yeah. Like this kind of concept of having like 2 million followers to be worthy for a studio to pick. It's like, well, why don't you just fucking pick the best actor for the job? How about that being the process? And maybe the film will be more successful as a result of that versus the amount of followers that can sell a fucking movie.
Well, can I add a layer to it? I think too, you talked about the intelligence of audiences, which is something I think a lot about. And I feel as someone who goes to the cinema, goes to the theater, I love the feeling of missing an actor. I think about Cola Scola right now, who did Oh Mary and then has gone into hiding. And how much, when I heard that Cole was going to be writing this Miss Piggy movie, I was like, oh my God, Cole, haven't heard that name in a minute. And so I think there's also a power in not having the social media, in giving audiences the chance to miss you. And then when you pop up again in the next role, be like, oh yeah, saw them in Hamnet, loved that, can't wait to see what the next thing is, because I don't know what they had for breakfast.
I feel like acutely aware of that. Like, I was talking to you yesterday, it's like, I feel like personally, like I've been very like, even intentionally trying to remove social media, still feel like I've been very visible. Like Gladiator was a big old tour, and it's been kind of 3 years of films being out. I'm excited for like after Hamnet. It's like, I have nothing coming out in the world till 2028. Like, that's an exciting prospect of like disappearing from the world for 2 whole years, but still getting to work. It's kind of like the blessing in disguise of like getting to a year of like the actual work and disappearing. But it is like I agree, the act of disappearing is sometimes hard though with this part of the job, because you have to promote the things.
I think one of the strange things about the interview, and why I brought up some of those other interviews, is I can ask you anything. I can ask you things related to the film, but I can also ask you about your personal life. It's just sort of this bizarre thing that happens, and it's not true of doctors or lawyers or any other person that you would interview outside of actors and musicians, where there is just sort of this believed idea that the public should have an access to not just your work, but who you are. And I've always found that to be so strange, and it's something I think about a lot.
You're brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant.
Do you know that? You're absolutely brilliant.
Stop.
It's true though.
No,
like,
it's the honesty is so like incredible.
Well, I love to sort of think, and this is why I miss our voice messages to one another, because I feel like you and I were sort of able to talk about the meta layer that exists above all of this.
To gush at this for a second, it's like, you are so well educated on the job that you do that you're like interrogating it, and also it's a big relief for us on the other side of it that it's not, we're not trying, I don't feel like I'm not able to be myself in
Yeah.
this interview, but I also, because I feel like you're respectful of the responsibility that you actually have. The interviewer has so much power in them because they dictate the tone.
Well, thank you. Jessie, you turn 36 next month.
Yeah.
I am 36 years old. Paul, you are 29. You're turning 30 in February.
Yep.
I'm wondering, 36-year-old to 36-year-old, what can you tell Paul about what your 30s kind of do for you as a human being? Because I found this to be the most enriching decade of my life so far.
I'm pretty bad at giving advice.
Not advice, but rather just what has being in your 30s done for you even?
I found being in my 20s quite complicated. I found being in my teens horrendous. But I think it's all good, you know? Like, I feel like in my 20s, I was like trying on different hats, you know? And unraveling a miseducation from my teens that didn't serve me. And then in my 20s, trying on different hats and actually trying to feel into the things that felt authentic to being an adult and actually having a point of view for yourself. Like the 20s are your like biggest education, I think, that you get to choose for yourself. And then I feel like my 30s, there's just a moment where you go, okay, I can steer this ship now. Like I can choose when I want to go out into the ocean, how I want to go out into it, if I want to like take all my clothes off and jump into the sea. And I love getting old. I'm like, thank God.
Me too.
I'm like, I know I'm going to be, I've always had a sense like I'll be an excellent old woman.
Yeah,
You know?
for sure.
I have been, and I love the wiseness that you get with growing old is like such a gift. And I have so many of my like elders around me that, and I mean that in even within my 30s, that have woke me up and made me root my feet into the ground more. And that's what I feel in my 30s is like I'm just putting my feet further down into the ground in myself. What do you feel?
I feel like I spent a lot of my 20s wanting to be some version of what I was seeing. I really sort of found myself aspiring to or taking facets of other people's personalities and saying, I want to be like this. And I think it's a mid-30s thing too. I think just a relaxation on being like, I'm not going to be for everybody. And that's not it's not like I'm not for everybody. And it's not even that. It's more just like, Thank you. It's more just like, I'm not for everybody, and that's fine. I think it's the difference in sort of like, I'm not for everybody. I just, that's sort of like, I can sit back in a way that I just couldn't when I was younger. I find there to be a power there. Okay, 2 last questions. Stylists, the great Danielle Goldberg, the great Felicity Kay. I'm wondering, because people think that working with the stylist means that they just put you in pretty clothes. I think there's a lot more to it. I think they serve a giant function, and I'm wondering what working with great stylists has done for you both.
When I first started into this, it was always like a shiny thing. The concept of having a stylist always felt, I thought it was that you were put in fancy clothes. That's what I thought the gig was. When I started working with Felicity, it became something that actually felt creatively inspiring to me. Like we would have conversations, we would pull up references of actors that we admired and we're like, oh, let's think about like Venice Paul Newman with the Marlboro packet and be like, let that be a reference. Or like being on a plane around Oscar time for Aftersun and being like seeing Humphrey Bogart's jacket in Casablanca and being like, but then having the genius of somebody like Felicity who can go out and actualize that and elevate it so that it's not just a costume. And she's just also just brilliant at her job.
I've had like a complex and interesting relationship with styling. I felt like quite intimidated about it when I started, you know. And I think there's been a lot of my I feel like in a really interesting moment with it, and I've just started working with Danielle and I couldn't be more excited. But there's probably been a part of me preceding this moment where my intimidation has made me hide behind a mask of it a little bit and sometimes wear an idea in rebellion against the fear or like against the idea of what fashion is or clothes is. And I kind of met a moment in myself this year where I was like, I think I'm ready to like just be seen. How do I take off the mask? How do I take off the idea of like the punk or whatever, which were great fun. And I loved that moment of my life, but I've done that chapter now. And to have somebody as confident and also wanting to let like you be seen, and Danielle like holding that space and making such a confident choice to just wear like a turtleneck and a black skirt of the roll look at the Governors. I feel like I can like stretch, like I can breathe a little bit. And I said to her, like, I feel like it's the first time I'm stepping out being myself. And there's something really vulnerable about that, especially being just a new mom as well. And, you know, so much of who myself is different. Like my friend said, you're a new thing, Jessie. Don't forget you're a new thing. Yeah. And having somebody who has the confidence to hold you, discover yourself as a new thing in this moment and meet the moment and feel beautiful and feel tall. And I think I love clothes. I spend most of my time in a pair of tracksuits that has been eaten by moths within an inch of their lives. But I also really respect the craft of it. And it is a feeling. Totally. You know, it is such a feeling.
Okay, so Chloe Zhao's next project, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I have to bring this up really quick because it is a formative piece of my youth. And I'd be remiss not to ask, are you familiar with the pretext, the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer? And will you be watching the upcoming revival series?
Absolutely watching it. I don't really know Buffy. I know there's a character called Angel.
There is.
That's where my knowledge comes.
Yeah, I have seen it when I was like young, but I don't know. I don't know it, and I also can't wait. I mean, I just also love how wild Chloe goes
to go from Hamnet to Buffy on your resume alone is just like
she's her own force of nature.
Incredible. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.